Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and for the last 9 days, I've been driving the 2025 BMW X3 M50i. Up front is a 3.0 liter twin turbo inline 6, as well as a mild hybrid system, and down below is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be making this video here today because not only have I spent a good chunk of time driving the BMW X3, but this is all new for the 2025 model year. This is the beginning of the 4th generation, and I'm excited to sink my teeth into it here with you today. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that straight 6. Well, it is known as the B58. And you might be thinking, oh, where have I heard that before? Of course, the BMW Z4 and the Toyota Supra, but also tons of other fantastic products. The 3 Series got this. The 4 Series got this. The X3 before it got it. And I have to say the B58 is clawing its way to the top of my engine list. I love this engine. The power, how smooth the power comes on. The sound is very BMW, very straight 6. And it is paired to a mild hybrid system, which is basically a 48-volt motor that will help with like stop and go traffic, help you get, an MPG there, an MPG here. But the total system horsepower is 393 horsepower, a nearly 400 horsepower SUV. Now that's a good spot to be in. Like I said, paired to it is an 8-speed automatic transmission. It is a ZF transmission, and it shifts wonderfully. It's quick, it's prominent, it's just so fantastic. And of course, this does have xDrive, which means it is all-wheel drive. However, unfortunately, I can't really show you much performance here today because this car is on summer tires, and I don't know if you have eyeballs or not, but you could see it is no longer summer here in Chicago. And so I signed paperwork saying that I wouldn't drive the vehicle if it were cold, and so, yeah. But what I can tell you, and I have a story to tell later, is the fact that the performance is absolutely there. In this segment, this is probably my favorite SUV to drive. The B58 is spotless. You put your foot down, this puppy goes. And that's what I want out of a vehicle like this, especially the M50i. Now, you can find these with smaller 4-cylinder turbos, and they're going to make smaller horsepower, of course, with the lower trims. This is the big dog. And as of right now, BMW does not have an M version planned here for the X3 or this generation of X3. They are going to do the M version for the electric. So this is the top dog. So how does it feel to drive? Well, day to day, it's still very comfortable. That's the thing. It's this two-sided coin where in a straight line and in performance driving situations, it's absolutely wonderful, but also it doesn't beat you up day to day. I'm not sitting here driving to Jewel wishing I had some other vehicle. It's comfortable, it's refined, it rides nice, has great turn-in, great road feel. Visibility is good enough for a modern SUV. You kind of got to grade modern SUVs on a curve, and I think it works well enough for that. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior, because boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Well, in front of me, I have a completely digital gauge cluster. Now, of course, you can swap this around. BMW is very into this sort of angular approach, and you'll see that with the different gauge designs that you can have. I like it. It's been clear enough to read. It's a little bit busy, but a lot of digital clusters are, so it's not technically new here for the X3. On the steering wheel on the left, we do have our adaptive cruise control modes, as well as off to the right, we have our settings, select, volume, voice commands, and we do have paddle shifters around the back, which if you hold the left paddle shifter, it does say boost on it, and this will give you extra engine power for 10 seconds. It'll basically overboost the motor. This is super cool. I've seen this also on like Hyundai Elantra Ns and things like that. I think this just adds a little bit of fun, a little bit of characteristic, to the car, and putting it into boost mode and you see that timer countdown. I think that's really cool. So gimmicky, maybe. Fun, absolutely. To the left, we don't really have much because we have an integrated climate control vent into the door, but then you get this sort of modern art piece on the door. You have lock and unlock, your memory seats, but you have this big light strip that you can change. You have your dimness and brightness settings. You have the Harman Kardon on the door. Down below, you have the trunk release, mirror switches, and power windows. All of this together is very, very hip. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But moving into the center, we have a giant infotainment display, of course, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It also has really, really fantastic resolution. I mean, just anything you could want out of a screen. You also do have an interior camera. Here's me and my friends the other day. It has an onboard dash cam. Now, a lot of your climate controls are ran through the screen, and I do have to say that that was a little bit of a downside. I don't like that manufacturers are moving towards that. It does sort of complicate things, especially here in the wintertime. Now that I'm switching the climate controls all the time, I'm trying to heat it up as fast as possible, and then I, bring it back when I'm starting to overheat, blah, blah, blah. Climate controls are very important here in Chicago for the next several months. I don't like that it's integrated into the screen, but I also can't bash BMW for that because every single manufacturer is doing that. Even Toyota in the new RAV4 is doing that. So it's not great. We do have a backup camera as well as a 360 camera, very high resolution, and this does have the assisted parking package, which it will park you in a space, but I've never had the guts to try it out on someone else's car. Moving down below, we do have two sliders for the individual fan speeds over the left and right. We have our defrost max and rear defrost along with hazard switch, so that's nice for sure. And down below we have two more climate control vents. Very odd way of using them, but kind of cool. And then down below we have this giant center console. So we do get a wireless charger, two USB-Cs, we get the M badge, and we get cup holders. So we'll do a big frame bottle test. It fails, but these do fit a lot of other cups and bottles and trinkets. So, however, in the door, we do get a special pocket for water bottles, and the big friggin' bottle does pass there. It passes in the RX 500 from Lexus, and now it passes here in the X3 from BMW. Moving into the center console area, we do have the start-stop button and shifter off to the left. Auto-holding brake as well, and off to the right, we do have a selector for that center screen, so if you don't want to use the touchscreen, you can use this. But honestly, the touchscreen is so great and responsive, I actually just prefer doing that. Parking cameras, ride height, as well as our volume and skip track, and we have My Modes. So for My Modes, we do have personal, sport, and efficient, which also changes the ambient lighting. So let's talk about this interior as a whole. There's just a lot going on, and I think what I've boiled it down to is that this feels very modern art museum. This feels like going downtown Chicago to the Art Institute, and everywhere you look, there's something interesting. You look at the doors, they have an interesting shape and color. You look at the center console, and again, you see swooping lines and intricate designs. And that to me is very, very cool. This does feel very modern. It doesn't feel like they just reskinned a previous gen X3 and called it a day. This feels fresh and hip. Will this hold up over time? Big question mark. But I think BMW's starting to kind of go the Carhartt route, where Carhartt was this work brand. It was always, for the job site, but it kind of morphed into a fashion statement over time. I think BMW's starting to go that way. We've definitely seen that with the exterior styling that we'll talk about a little bit later on. But I think definitely with the interior, this interior is a statement. This is a fashion accessory. And so if you're into that stuff, this is great for you. If you're into the older style BMW that was very straightforward, simple, and basic, well, then maybe this isn't for you. Now, the seats have been very comfortable. They are heated and ventilated, which you can turn on at the same time if you really want to feel weird. Their memory as well, they've been very, very comfortable and kept me warm over the last 9 days here in frigid Alaska, Chicago. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, getting in the back of the BMW X3 M50i. And as you can see, not a whole ton of space. My knees aren't hitting the seat in front of me, but they are coming pretty close. You do get a slot back here for some accessories, which is pretty cool. And you do have these really interesting vents. They are kind of controlled in an odd way, but it works. You get two USB-Cs down here. Absolutely love this material. Feels very premium, looks very premium, and that's what I want out of a vehicle like this. We can pull this down as well. Two cup holders found in here, and we get to enjoy the giant moonroof that has some ice still sitting on it because I believe it's about 22 degrees outside right now. Overall, my head isn't hitting the ceiling. Something you should note, though, is that the X3 is still a smaller SUV. They have the X5, they have the X7, and X's all in between. They have an X6, XM, X1 and 2, but those are going to be smaller. Things like that. It's not the biggest SUV in the world, but for a parent with a kid or two, you know, a single person, this is going to be totally fine. I'm 5'11", not a small guy, and I fit back here pretty well. So, nice to see that for sure. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the X3 M50i, we do have a nice scraper back here, of course, because it is a necessity on a day like today. Once we are back here, we do have a 12-volt outlet over here. Absolutely love to see that. And you can pull this out. You get some nice cargo hooks and whatnot. You can lift this up. We do have the spare tire down there, front plate bracket, things like that. You get some netting over here, put some stuff in, all of the goodies. However, we will come around here, open up the side, and if you come up here, press this and fold. Now you would have to either move this seat up or take this headrest out. It will fold completely flat. So very, very nice to see that. Lots of storage space here in the X3. Honestly, like the normal human being, this is plenty of space. If you are going to move cross country, maybe you want to rent a U-Haul or something like that, but I'm not too worried. Up here, we do have the power tailgate and locking mechanism. One touch back down. Ooh. There you go, the BMW X3 M50i. Now we got to talk about the looks, and this is finished in frozen deep gray, which I do have to say is really, really cool. And an added side bonus, the snow doesn't really stick to the matte paint. So that's pretty nice. Again, the BMW X3, the exterior of it as well as the interior, is a fashion statement. This is a bold vehicle that people are going to notice. Yes, those grills of the front have gotten absolutely huge, but people have been talking about it. Not a single human being that I know has talked about the Audi Q5 or Q3 or Q7 exterior. No one that I know has talked about the exteriors of modern Mercedes. And so at the end of the day, as long as you're in the conversation, that's a good thing, and I think this car is evoking that. Now, it's going to come down to personal taste, of course, but what I will say is that I did do a comparison of this vehicle to the 2013 BMW X3, and you could see that it didn't really grow all that much. The windshields look the same, the roof lines look the same, and so it does look physically bigger, but in all reality, the size hasn't really changed in the last 12 years. So that's just something to note. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the BMW X3 M50i for the last 9 days? Well, I have to say I absolutely head over heels fell for this. It's mostly down to that drivetrain. This drives better than any vehicle in this segment. It really does. It's such a great motor, fantastic transmission, great all-wheel drive system. All around it works really well. Now, a lot of the interior stuff I could take or leave. I'm not a big Art Institute guy. I'll go there and see some Expressionist era paintings and go, yeah, you know, it's cool. Yeah. So it's just not very me. I'm also not a very flashy guy. I know I come on here on YouTube and scream at you, but I'm just not kind of that person. However, I like that they're moving in a direction, and I don't think they're jumping the shark with it. However, I keep alluding to the fact that I've had this vehicle for 9 days. If you know anything about the press cars, the cars that I review here on the channel, I normally get them for 7 days. Or if it's a bigger luxury vehicle like the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, I had that for about 5 days. But I normally get week-long loans. Why did I have this for 9 days? Well, I was in the hospital for 5 of the days. On Thanksgiving morning, 2025, I woke up in some of the most excruciating pain I've ever felt, ever. I couldn't form a sentence. I was throwing up, I was keeled over in my bed, and so I made the decision to go to the hospital. I ended up staying there for 5 days, getting poked and prodded and tested and scanned. I was hooked up to a machine for 5 excruciating days. It was the worst week of my life, hands down. Signed, sealed, and sent. But when I woke up and decided to go to the hospital, I live 35 minutes away from my hospital. So I had to drive 35 minutes. And I walked outside and I had 2 press cars that week. I had a Toyota Grand Highlander and this. And there wasn't a question in my mind which car I was going to take. I grabbed the keys for the BMW and I went flying. So when I talk about the power, when I talk about how well this car drives and how this vehicle can rise to the occasion, I know what I'm talking about because I lived it. And I made that 35-minute drive to the hospital in excruciating pain, holding my vomit in about as much time as it takes to microwave a Hot Pocket. This car was so incredibly stable. This car was so confident when I needed something in my life to give me an answer and to be confident. This car was my backbone that morning, as well as it sat in a cold, frigid hospital parking lot for 5 days. I didn't have to worry if my battery was going to deplete. If I drove an EV to the hospital and arrived with 30% battery, I might not be able to leave because it was 20 degrees the entire time I was there. I didn't walk outside and say, oh my gosh, I didn't charge it last night. I didn't have to. It's a gas-powered car. And also, it wasn't a Toyota Corolla. I could sustain highway speeds for the duration of my time. This car, in the moment that I needed it most, rose to the occasion and became something I could lean on, something I could be confident in, something that made sense that day. And for that, I will forever be thankful of this BMW X3. It got me there. And I don't think this is a hyperbole. I think it might have saved my life. I'm not kidding. That's how dire the situation is. I don't need to bore you with my new medical history. But if I didn't get to the hospital that morning, I don't know if I would still be able to be doing what I'm doing here today. And so every video you see here on the channel from here on out, from now till the end of my days, there's going to be a slight tip of the cap to the BMW X3. Do I love this interior? Maybe not. But this interior loved me. And this car loved me. And it got me where I needed to go and back onto the route of recovery. That's why I love the X3. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I always say thank you to the press car fleet management companies and the OEMs, but I really, truly mean it from the bottom of my heart this time. I've been in constant contact with G. Schmitz, who handles the delivery and processing of these vehicles and is able to get me the vehicles, as well as BMW. They were so gracious in my time of need. I said, hey, I know you're supposed to pick up the car Monday. I'm in the hospital. Is there any way I could get an extension? And they said, of course, don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. Focus on getting better. And so now I was able to not only film this video, but recover and get out and get on with my life. And so huge, incredible to G. Schmidt's entire team of Lisa and Rick. They have just been guiding lights in my troubling time. Huge thank you to BMW, and just overall, thank you to everyone. Thank you to all the doctors, specialists, nurses, RNs, techs. You kept this boat afloat for a little while longer, and I'm eternally grateful. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.